The hammer struck the anvil, a heavy, rhythmic thud that vibrated through the cooling clay. Hephaestus shaped my ribs into a cage, his movements precise and relentless. Athena leaned in, her breath cold against the stillness of my newly formed lips. The first intake of air tasted of sharp dust and iron. Aphrodite pressed my palms to the hips, leaving behind a heat that burned like an unchecked fever. Then came the taste of silver. Hermes touched the tongue with a thin needle, and the first word spoken was a lie. Then they named me, their creation, Pandora. I was a vessel, forged for a singular purpose. High above, Zeus watched from his throne. His mouth curled into a smile, a slow, deliberate expression that felt like a key turning in a lock. His creation stood, limbs heavy, with the weight of divine intent, while the master of Olympus looked down, satisfied that the trap was set. The forge went silent, leaving only the sound of a heart, beginning to beat against a frame of clay. Zeus sent me away from the clouds. I walked until the path ended at a house built of stone and silence. Epimetheus stood in the doorway, his eyes fixed on the horizon, where his brother Prometheus had once stood. A warning had been carved into the mountain rock, a jagged instruction to accept nothing from Olympus. Epimetheus looked at the warning, then at his visitor, and the caution dissolved. He reached out and took a hand that was meant to be a blade. He pulled me inside, and the warning vanished from his mind like wood smoke in a rising gale. The house felt hollow. I moved through the rooms, a stranger breathing in the dust of a life I did not belong to. I stepped into the courtyard, where a tall clay jar stood in the center, sealed tight with dark, hardened pitch. It hummed and sang to me. The sound was not heard, but I felt it against the bone. It was a vibration that rattled my teeth and made the air grow thick. Epimetheus followed, his hand trembling as he pointed at the vessel. "Do not touch," he said, his voice brittle. "It is a container for the private rage of the thunder god." The jar sat in the dirt, waiting, changing with each desire. The word private burrowed into my skin, a constant irritation that refused to fade. Every night, when the house fell into a heavy, stagnant slumber, I knelt by the clay vessel. I pressed my ear, my chest, my lips against the cool surface, listening. At first, it was only a low, rhythmic vibration. Then it sharpened. I heard the distinct, frantic scratching of tiny, clawed things scraping against the inner walls. They moved with a purpose that felt deliberate, a frantic choreography of trapped limbs. The sound scraped against my marrow, a persistent, jagged rhythm that kept me awake until the sun turned the horizon gray. My desire grew. For 3 months, days bled into weeks, and the silence of the house became a physical weight, a pressure behind my tired eyes that I could no longer shift. The jar began to hum in response to my presence, a low frequency that made the floorboards tremble under my knees. The scratching grew louder, more rhythmic, as if the creatures inside were calling my name through the clay. I found myself talking to the vessel, answering the sound with my own silence. The restraint I had practiced was fraying, snapping thread by thread under the relentless demand of the sound. The house was no longer a home, it was a cage, and the jar was the only thing alive within it. The sun burned white over the courtyard, stripping the world of shadow. Heat radiated from the stone, baking the air until it hung motionless and heavy. I walked to the center of the yard. The jar stood waiting, its surface dull and defiant in the glare. I knelt. My skin felt dry, cracked by the intensity of the light. I placed my palms against the cool, unyielding clay. The humming had stopped, replaced by a vacuum of sound so profound it made my ears ache. I did not think of the warning. I did not think of the thunder god. My focus narrowed to the thin, dark line, where the lid met the rim. I dug my fingernails into the seam. The pitch was hard, brittle, and unyielding. I pushed. I leaned my entire weight into the effort, my muscles bunching, my breath hitching in my throat. The seal groaned. I pulled harder, desperation overriding the final instinct of caution. With a sound that pierced the silence like a blade, the bronze shrieked. It was a jagged, metallic cry of protest. I gave one final, violent tug. The world tore open, and the pressure that had lived in my marrow for months finally surged out. Black flies erupted in a thick, suffocating cloud, darkening the sky and bringing the stench of rot and fever into the courtyard. I staggered back as a red mist swirled into existence, thick and heavy, transforming the air into the cacophony of swords clashing and shields splintering. Old age crawled out on jagged, brittle knuckles, dragging its weight across the stone. Envy slithered past my feet, like a cold, slick worm, leaving a trail of bitterness on the ground. Grief whipped past my ear with a sound like a sudden intake of breath, mimicking the voice of a mother I never had, whispering names I did not know. The world was unraveling. The air turned thin and sharp, biting at my skin. I threw myself forward, ignoring the sting in my fingers. I grabbed the heavy bronze rim and slammed it down. The metal bit into the clay with a final jarring thud. I leaned my full weight against the lid, my chest heaving, my hands slick with blood that dripped from my torn palms onto the stone. I did not move. I did not breathe. The jar was empty. The world had changed, and the silence that followed was heavy with everything that had just been unleashed. I remained pressed against the lid, my blood staining the clay. A faint, rhythmic scratching persisted from deep within the vessel. It was not the frantic clawing of the horrors, but a slow, deliberate movement. As I eased my grip, my heart hammered against my ribs. A flicker of light pushed against the inner wall. A small, golden thing crawled upward, its surface shimmering with an unnatural, liquid glow. It lacked wings, yet it moved with a terrifying grace. It reached the rim, its eyes locking onto mine, mirroring my own exhaustion and lingering fear. The creature leaned into the gap, its voice, a dry whisper that bypassed my ears to resonate directly in my bones. "Let me stay," it murmured. "I am the worst one." It was hope, the promise that never arrives, the final sting in the god's design. High above the clouds, a sudden crack of thunder split the sky. It sounded like a man laughing, a deep, resonant rumble that shook the courtyard walls. The laughter twisted, turning into a mocking cadence that echoed the cruel joke of my creation. I understood then. The jar was not meant to keep the evils in, it was meant to keep the lie alive. I was the lock, and the world was the cage. The laughter faded, but the weight remained. Now, every woman carries the ghost of that jar within her chest, and every man points his finger at her, seeking a target for his own suffering. They call it a sin. They call it the undoing of man. But my secret is etched into the marrow of my bones, a truth that defies their throne. If I could stand before that bronze lid again, I would pull it open once more. I would do it without hesitation. Curiosity is not a stain to be scrubbed away. It is the only honest thing the gods ever gave me. It is the fire that burns through the lie of their design. If I am the lock, and I am the key, then it is my choice, and I choose to remain open. 3 clicks change everything. Like, subscribe, bell, then comment a lost myth. From the depths, Epic Mythos Unveiled asks for your support. This is Epic Mythos Unveiled. Until the next time, thanks for watching.